Nintendo's greed knows no bounds. I mean, this goes without saying. This company, after all, at one point was selling you cardboard for a hefty price and telling you to have fun with it and play with your imagination.
God bless you, man. You have a good time, you know, whale away.
This is cardboard.
Yeah, bet you have fun with it.
Yes, I know what you're thinking, Frit. That example is getting old. At the very least, Nintendo puts out bangers, and you're right. Nintendo does put out bangers. I love new Super Mario Bros. Iteration 1000 just as much as anyone else. I love that they've completely abandoned Chibi Robo and don't do anything with him anymore. But there's a reason my relationship with the Nintendo Switch never worked out. And that's because every time I booted it up to see what was on the Nintendo eShop and I got one look at the prices, I shut it down faster than Sony shut down Concord. However you feel about Nintendo's pricing, there is one thing we can all agree, and that's that they absolutely should be discounting these games over the years, and they don't. As a matter of fact, they charge you more for them in the coming years than when they initially released, because that's just how Nintendo operates.
But just because we're bereaved doesn't make us sad.
And they have continuously been supported, and those bad habits of theirs are very influential to other gaming companies. Let's not kid ourselves. Sure, you could say, hey, it's not a big deal, you just don't have to buy Nintendo products, and shut your mouth, and you're right. The problem, however, is Nintendo's decisions are gonna quickly become every other gaming company's decisions. Once they see Nintendo get away with $90 games, that's going to affect those of us who aren't Nintendo gamers, because other companies are gonna see that they can get away with it, and they're going to commence charging you $80 to $90.
Dude, don't go away, man. Come on, this affects all of us, man. They're basic freedoms.
You see, we make it our business, even though we're not Nintendo customers, because one way or another, this is going to affect the rest of us. And the way certain consumers are just willing to surrender and give up and pay the price Nintendo is asking for, well, it deserves ridicule, and that's what I'm here for, because there's lots of that going on right now. Just say you're gonna buy your product, and I don't care. Try and shame us or emotionally manipulate us into not saying a word. Bad move. Welcome to Fritanga Plays. Like, comment, share, and subscribe right now, because I have got a shipyard's worth of corporate shilling that I very much want to address, because people really need to see why the gaming community deserves what comes to it. Fair warning, there's going to be some familiar faces you probably like in this video, so try not to get too upset. I know it's not easy to watch some people you respect corporate shilling, but when it's done this egregiously, I can't help myself, even if it cost me subs. Oh boy, I can't wait to get dressed, hop in the Firebird, drive to the video game store, stand in line, and buy Donkey Kong. I will be sitting out that $80 Donkey Kong.
Oh, so that's how you're gonna play it. You gonna do this? Okay, fine. That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that, and it became personal with me.
How old are you? Because if you're old enough to have played NES or SNES, you remember that games used to cost whatever Nintendo, Sony, or Sega felt like charging. Final Fantasy III cost $80 in the early 90s, and that wasn't at all uncommon. Oh my god, Razer Fist is back at it again, or on this channel we call him Razer Simp. Clever, I know. You can credit me in the comments. I don't understand how someone that poses as so anti-authoritarian, anti-government is so pro-corporation. It makes absolutely no sense to me when it comes to Razer Fist's character, but that's neither here or there. What we need to focus on right now is how wrong he is in his statement. I don't know how someone who has gamed as long as he has is such a tourist when it comes to gaming history. No, Sony was not charging you NES or SNES prices, or even Sega Genesis cart prices. Games like Phantasy Star 2 were retailing close to $100 back then. Same with games like Earthbound. That's because the manufacturing costs of a cartridge were far more expensive. Do you know how much Final Fantasy VII retailed at launch on the PS1? $50. And that was 3 discs. Why? Because it was significantly cheaper. These companies weren't price gouging you. It's just that a video game cartridge contained its own goddamn circuitry inside. And by today's standards, to have even less excuses since most games are digital. Not to mention there's a wider availability these days, and that's thanks to digital keys. There's an endless amount of them. Video game distribution costs have been cut down significantly ever since even the mid 2000s. And back then games were about what, $50 on average? That didn't change for quite some time. Video game companies just started to understand that just because things cost less to distribute doesn't mean you have to charge people less. And we let them get away with it because of people like Razer Fist. Let's not forget, games back then actually had the games on the disc or the cartridge, but history is quickly lost on Razer. But even then, with all that to consider, why would we want to go back to those prices? Who would want to be paying up to $100 for a game in 2025? Why would you when we had it so much better even a decade ago? It makes no sense. Hey, it was what we were paying back then. Hey, it's not what I want to pay now. Not with the fact that I know most games aren't on the discs or complete or have pieces of content that are missing and will be repackaged as DLC. Hell, some of the content that comes on these discs these days is locked behind a paywall. So of course nobody wants to be paying up to $90. There's no justification for it. On top of that, Nintendo games look 10 years outdated. They are very well-polished games, yes, but I can name you a bunch of well-polished games that aren't asking for $90. Games that are either equal or greater in quality to Nintendo games that aren't charging Nintendo prices. So why Razer Fist wanted to run to the defense of Nintendo like a total cuck is beyond me. But it wasn't just him, because then his homeboy, Geeks and Gamers, comes in saying, yup, that's why I'm personally not bothered at all. Oh, really? Really, Jeremy? Then explain to me something. Is this you? A Nintendo Switch 2 plus Mario Kart World bundle, which includes the system and a full game download for the exclusive Mario Kart World game, will launch on June 5th. You guys aren't mentioning prices for a reason. Lol. Mixed signals here, Jeremy. What are you doing? 1 minute, here you are calling out Nintendo on their pricing, and the next you're defending it under Razer Fist's post. Why? Is it to seem cool in front of your other YouTube friend? Is that why? You'll criticize Nintendo, but when Razer Fist defends the prices, you're there simping and cucking? 1 minute you're saying you're not personally bothered by the prices, the next minute you're trying to call out Nintendo for hiding the prices, which would make no sense because I thought you weren't bothered by them. So, of course I pointed it out to him, and his immediate reply to me is, "These gender-confused freaks are mad at me when I'm too negative and mad at me when I'm too positive. Mental illness."
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the
Shrooms.
Yes, what a high IQ response from you, Jeremy. Genius. Just say you don't care about the prices and don't pretend to care for clout, okay? That's my only request. Why you wanted to shill for Nintendo and then put on a face like you just didn't shill for them a few minutes ago is cringe. And not being bothered by it is a problem. You are the problem. And you're supposed to be like one of those dudes that's saving us with Gamergate or something. I don't understand why the motherfuckers that only buy games when there's a Steam sale feel compelled to talk about the price of games.
Just standing up for my rights as a consumer.
Did you eat paint chips before you typed this? Like, you're making Geeks and Gamers look like Bill Nye by comparison to you. Was that a compliment these days? Anyway, mofos that buy games on Steam when they're on sale, we do that because we know what the actual cost of the game is. When you're looking for good prices, you know more about the value of a game and the cost than someone who just buys everything day one. They have no concept of value, no concept of pricing or cost. They are mindless consumers. I don't know how anybody could try and slight somebody who buys things when they go on sale. That is the best way to be shopping as a consumer. If you're buying everything day one, you're the biggest idiot on the planet. None of your products are guaranteed day one to be functioning right anyway. On top of that, most of the content won't even be included until some special edition. And when you buy those special editions on sale, you're getting a far better value than the idiot who bought everything day one and then purchased all the add-ons as they came out. I can't believe I even have to explain this. I'm losing my mind here. When did gamers allow themselves to be graped so hard? Why was it in the 80s and 90s we as little kids worked to save up money for the $100 game when that probably translates to $150 to $200 today? But today we as adults now complain about the 80 to 90 price tag. It's a fascinating thing to consider. We all expected the price to go down, which is why we welcome digital downloads, but they never did. Now there is a loss of physical media. Guides don't even come with them anymore for physical. Truth be told, I'm unsure how I feel. I don't know why I used to scrunch my nose more at prices, and yet today I feel really apathetic. Maybe because I don't buy games at the rate I used to, because there isn't as much for mainline popular IPs I look forward to anymore. I don't know. It's a curious thing to consider.
Women.
Mrs. Gaming Journalist of the Year. Back at it. That's right. If you didn't know, at Side Scroller's real Game Awards, it was Savvy who won Journalist of the Year, and this chick doesn't get anything right half the time. Listen, just because you're a woman don't mean I'm gonna be nicer to you. I don't think that Savvy here understands people are paying more for digital games now than they were for physical games then. That's the big difference maker. You owned what you had back then. And that's because what was in those cartridges was one-of-a-kind, unique software that was hard to manufacture and had to be very, very, very well polished because you didn't get a second chance back then. Nowadays, you're paying more for something you physically can't hold in your hands and is less complete and has add-ons and expansions. Basic things like unlockables for games today are sometimes put behind a paywall, even though that info exists for the digital product. Back then, all the unlockables, all the levels, all the content you wanted was in the product. You should be more pissed off now than you ever were back then. This tweet makes no sense. I don't understand why the shilling must commence. I rarely use this word, but this is the most boomer take I've ever seen. There is less physical media to own. The games are of worse quality and they're expensive and you're apathetic towards that? Why? That makes no sense. Because chances are you're working even more now as an adult than you were as a kid for these products. Talk about a tweet that said absolutely nothing. What a dumb take. Last but not least, the final video to wrap it up. The channel Sungran Studios. I've actually watched this dude's content a couple of times. He's actually great. Not a bad person. Not even a bad content creator, but that doesn't make one immune to a bad take. And believe me, this video is one giant bad take. I'm not going to watch the entire thing and do a pause and play recap. I only want to highlight the parts of the video that really rubbed me the wrong way, because I understand what he's trying to do. He's trying to give a rational, level-headed, non-emotional take on the situation with Nintendo raising prices. And that's admirable. I can respect that. The problem is that the video relies on playing into people's emotions to the point he kind of uses Iwata's death to play into your emotions about these price hikes, and that doesn't sit right with me. because the discussion shouldn't factor in such emotional subjects like that. So he starts off the video right here talking about inflation and showing you how that translates to the price hikes we're having now. And that's about as, informative as it gets. Going from here, he starts to try and play the sympathy card.
Inflation is simply part of our world. It is always there. I will level with you. It sucks. Dollar values increasing are unpleasant. So, why does inflation happen? What does this mean? If companies do not increase their price values to keep up with inflation, they significantly decrease their profit margins and put their company on track to guaranteed bankruptcy. If Nintendo does not increase their prices to keep up with inflation, the way the rest of the world is doing, then the quality of the products will be worse significantly. If they do not price their products accordingly, it is the developers who will suffer. They will have to work harder and be paid less. I think you are old enough now to understand it is the developers who make the games that you enjoy.
You see, that part right there matters to me because he opens up the video letting you know he is also a game developer. And of course, you don't want to see game developers hurt, right? So of course, if you don't want to see people like him out of a job, Nintendo must adjust for inflation. They just have to. Ignoring the fact that we already know, even when games succeed, even when they fail, companies let developers go regardless. There are layoffs. When it comes to Nintendo, that's not really the case, but at the same time, Nintendo's budgets never go over 150 million like other developers. We know Nintendo is not solely adjusting for inflation here. They're trying to make even more money. They don't have inflated game budgets. They don't let developers go. Hardly. So, trying to make this a concern for consumers is disingenuous. Nintendo as a company is nowhere near close to bankruptcy. I mean, if the Switch 2 fails, they can still keep going for another few generations just fine. We know this. To suggest that they have to inflate prices or they're gonna go out of business, yeah, I don't think so. This includes online subscriptions and fees and accessories. The Nintendo brand is a license to print money. This feels more like a personal justification on your part for Nintendo raising prices than a logical conclusion.
The cause of inflation is simple and complicated all at the same time. But what it comes down to is this. The world is changing. The world has always changed, and it continues to change. I want to speak with you, my fellow gamers, on a personal level. 8 years ago, the world was very different. There were many people here 8 years ago who are no longer with us.
And here it comes. Oh no, this part of the video is I really can't believe he tries to pull this off. Listen.
People who can no longer share the excitement of video games with us. People we can no longer laugh with, share a meal with, run through the rain to get back to the car with. 8 years have passed, and those people are gone. I grew up inspired by these games that hardworking, talented, and passionate people made for us, for you, and for me. And I worked
cue in the emotional soundtrack. Cue in the emotional soundtrack. Oh, he's really trying to play into your emotion. He wants you to tear up. Oh God, I gotta admit though, he does it very well. He knows exactly when to cue that music in.
hard my entire life so I could also make games for people. There were people in the industry that I wanted to work side by side with, so I could say, I am here. Let's make something beautiful for other people. But the world kept moving. The world kept changing, and by the time I was able to make commercial games, someone I wanted to work alongside with left us.
And there it is, just gross. Absolutely gross. Like, listen, I don't want to shit all over your own personal feelings when it comes to this video. I'm sure you meant everything you're saying, but you should have thought about this. I mean, rest in peace, Iwata, all right? It's been like, how long? 10 years? And he's still not forgotten. And yes, may God rest his soul. But still, gross. What does Iwata's passing have to do with unjustified price hikes, okay? You think because Iwata passed away and that gets us a little emotional, you're hoping that'll get us to see that these price hikes aren't that severe and there are more important things like helping developers stay employed? You're talking to consumers, not other developers. That might work with other developers. It would have been a great presentation on stage, but here with us, it's like you're shilling right before our very eyes, even if it's unintentional. I'm sorry, but Iwata's passing doesn't make $80 or $90 look better. No, I will not be understanding, much less paying a company like Nintendo more money for games so they can proceed to take that money and spend it on trying to take down fan projects or other games I love like Palworld. I'm sorry. But what this really seems like is you trying to play the sympathy card and placating people while defending corporate greed in the same business field you're involved in. You know, that doesn't come off well.
So I understand you feel angry.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God, that was gross. And he then turns to look at the image of where Iwata was next to him, the emotional blinking. I'm sorry, but this is not the time and place to be playing this card. Inappropriate is what I would say. If you wanted to make a video talking about how much Iwata meant to you and how much you love being a developer and how hard it is, yeah, but to incorporate all of that into a video about unjustified price hikes, not good. Not good, my dude.
I understand you feel resentful, but there was a man who I know would not want you to feel that way. There was a man who would have wanted you to feel excitement and joy. A man who worked hard to create something beautiful for us to care about, for us to believe in. If Satoru Iwata was here with us today, I just know he would know what to say to make people feel better.
See, but people aren't trying to feel better, okay? Because as nice as that is, the sting can still be felt in your wallet. No, people aren't looking for someone to cheer them up about this. That will have the complete opposite effect. That just kind of riles people up more. And I don't know why you're trying to pull that off. Wouldn't it have been easier to just make a video saying, this sucks, nobody should be in favor of this, let me give you a few reasons why we shouldn't pay that much, but instead you're just trying to tell people if Iwata was here, things would be different? I don't think so. I don't buy it.
But he isn't here with us. And so it's up to us. You, me, those of us who remain. It's up to us to find a way to carry his legacy forward, proudly, with a smile on our faces and confidence in our steps.
Yeah, most people are not economically in a position to be able to do that. I hate to break it to you. Yeah, no, that's where we end it. No, I'm sorry. Listen, Sun Grand, I understand this video was meant to calm people down about the price hikes, but you really don't need to calm people down, okay? We have seen the video game industry make changes overnight thanks to enough outrage. We have seen our voices make the 3DS go down in price. We don't have to pretend like we're happy or joyous about this. And you don't have to bring in a deceased person to make your point. This video was meant to play into emotions in a very manipulative way. I mean, maybe you guys may not see it. You might get upset at me for being critical of this video, but I encourage you to watch it through if you're someone who's not happy about Nintendo prices, and you will see how it comes off. I don't understand why there is anybody out there defending this. We don't need to defend this. We need to make our voices heard, not drowned out, and we don't have to surrender and roll over. Gamers deserve better, and we don't need a video playing into our emotions to make us forget. Make your voice heard. Be loud, obnoxious, never shut up. Make these companies annoyed to the point that they have to change things, because that's how we've done it in the past. Of all the people, though, I take less offense to Sungrad's video because I know he just wants people to not be so tilted. But this is one of those rare occasions where it's perfectly okay for everyone to be tilted. Like, comment, share, and subscribe if you so choose to, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.
Fritongo sucks ass.